Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight Live on KMTV. I'm Kristen Hawthorne and here are your top stories on Thursday the 20th of November. Hundreds of homes. Hadlow locals worry for the future of their village after 500 homes set to be built.
We are in line for roughly 500 houses in this village and we don't have the infrastructure.
Pub power couple say they are leaving the industry in the past after 16 years as prices increase.
Rent here is diabolical. For the footfall we get here, we don't even make the rent each week. It's ridiculous.
And Film Focus will be joined by Chris Deasy for a look at this week's biggest talking points and what's new at the cinema. But first, our top story this evening. The small countryside village of Hadlow, near Tunbridge, is set for more than 500 homes after plans for multiple housing developments have been submitted, worrying local residents. They say that the extra people would put pressure on already strained schools, medical services and roads, and that the village simply wouldn't be able to handle it. Finn McDermott went down to the village to find out more.
Kent is known as the Garden of England, and it isn't hard to see why. Rolling hills, winding roads and acres of green space. But one village in the heart of the county say they're worried because of housing development in the area. Now this is normal with rising housing targets across the country. It's not exactly rare to hear about this, but for the small village of Hadlow, they've had multiple developments be submitted. And with a new application for 116 homes being raised, locals say it would be too much for the village to handle.
I called a public meeting along with some other people in August this year because we heard about a planning application up Carpenter's Lane in Hadlow for 100 houses. And we knew other ones were coming. So we had a public meeting and from there we formed a group called Home. Hadlow opposes mass expansion because we are in line for roughly 500 houses in this village and we don't have the infrastructure.
Now, Hadlow isn't exactly a large village. It's got a population of about 4,000. And with that, residents say that services aren't especially good as well, with only the one primary school, one secondary school, and also the traffic is quite concerning. It's just about 3 p.m. now, and you can hear some of those commuters actually behind me. And you can see the traffic is quite severe, and locals worry that with these extra homes that they've totaled up over different planning applications to be about 500, that all this get a lot worse.
This is, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If you were to come here 3 or 4 hours later, you won't be able to move. It's gridlocked. And the limited amount of parking there is in the square. So instead of people walking from various parts of the village, which is sustainable, they have to use a car to come a long way, and then they find there's nowhere to park.
The application does take parking into account, with a community car park being part of the plans. But locals with HOME added they thought the site was too far away from the village to be effective. The largest 2 developments are the most recent on Court Lane in the south of the village with 116 homes and another for 100 homes in the green belt by Carpenter's Lane. And the companies responsible responded to the residents' concerns, saying requests for financial contributions towards infrastructure will be made by consultees. These will include health, education, leisure and open space. And Red Row Homes, working on the Court Lane development, say they've been working closely with the local planning authority, highways authority and the housing officer to update our proposal following the consultation period, ensuring it aligns with the draft local plan and the needs of the local community. Kent has plenty of countryside and Hadlow is no different, but locals will hope that if the 116 home development does pass, that it will fit the village rather than fill it beyond what it can handle. Finn McDermott for KMTV in Hadlow.
And in politics now, with a damning verdict, almost no one thinks the economy is doing well under Labour. Well, that's the headline from YouGov polling, which suggests 3/4 of people think the economy's in a bad state and that the government aren't managing it properly either. And with less than a week to go until the next budget, what do people here in Kent think? We went to Rochester to find out.
I think it's quite obvious that the government really don't care about us. It's really aggravating. They're not using it for the good as much as they could. The world has enough money for everyone to be taken care of, and they're not. They're spending their tax monies on stuff they shouldn't do, and it's unfair. It's not equal.
Personally, I think he's struggling a lot. I don't think what they're doing is
this, something needs to change.
Sorry for those technical difficulties, but we're actually joined by local democracy reporter Ollie Leader to run us through the stats anyway. So, Ollie, sleepless nights for Labour off the back of this polling then?
Well, you look at the front page of the Daily Mail, they're not going to be happy about this one, are they? 0 people in Britain think the economy is in a great state under Labour. It's what the polling would indicate. Now, that 0 might be over-egging the pudding. That's in reference to people who think the economy is in a very good state. 0% of people think that, but 79% of people do think it is in a bad way. And there are other newspapers available, but I guess Labour wouldn't be happy with the headlines there either, with rampant speculation about tax rises ahead of the next budget. Let's get some of the stats up on the screen now, because let's really dig into this. You can see 44% of people think it's in a fairly bad state, and 39% of people think the economy is being managed badly by the government. This is not good for Labour. Now, polling at its early stage, it won't have any impact on the general election, but it does kind of show that people here in Kent who lent Labour their vote at the last election in places where Labour wouldn't typically win, they aren't believing the government's making true on their promise of change. That's what the Labour came in on, that pledge of change, of fixing things. People aren't necessarily thinking the economy's doing well under this Labour Party.
Well, is it all doom and gloom though? Are there any silver linings?
Well, I think voters understand it's not all to do with Labour. Let's get the next set of graphs up. I do love a good graph, particularly when it's quite complicated. Not quite the correct graph, but we'll have a look at this one anyway, because it's really interesting to see that Labour's biggest competition are Reform UK, and people think they're as competent as Reform UK when it comes to the economy. And the Conservatives still come out on top of all the major parties when it comes to economic ruling, like how they would run the economy. They think Conservatives would probably do better. And that's after all the Liz Truss shenanigans. But we get the other graph up now. This is perhaps where Labour will see their biggest silver lining, is that 46% of people do think the last government, the Conservative government, it's their fault. Those 64% of all Britons do think the impact of decisions made by the current Labour government has had an impact on the way the economy is. Now, this polling is mainly from people who think the economy is already in a bad shape. So people who are with pro-government sympathies aren't necessarily going to be represented, but it does give you that indication that, you know, it's not all doom and gloom for Labour, because some people do understand the economic challenges they face, because of things like Brexit, for example.
And of course, there's been lots of speculations about what we can expect from the budget next week. Can you kind of outline some of those for us?
Absolutely. The big thing is Labour going to increase taxes? Are you going to feel it in your pocket at home? The answer is, we don't know. If I knew that, I'd probably be working for the Treasury right now, but I don't work for the Treasury. I don't know if they're going to raise taxes. Income tax, very unlikely. They've been rolling back on a lot of the noise and sound and bluster they were making about that. It would be a manifesto breaking promise if it did go ahead. But there's talk of a smorgasbord of smaller little taxes. So like mansion tax, for example, which will put taxes on those really high value properties. We see a few of those dotted around Kent, but it might ease the burden on other taxpayers. And while taxpayers in general aren't happy about paying more taxes, they will probably understand that public services need to come first in some cases. So a divided public opinion ahead of next week's budget.
Yes, well, it's all to be seen next week. Thank you so much, Ollie. Now, the County Council have admitted there has been no progress to carrying out repairs on the A299 Thanet Way, a route dubbed a roller coaster. The stretch of the road has a reduced speed limit of 50 miles per hour since September 17th for work to be carried out. At the time, Kent County Council Cabinet Member for Highways, Councillor Peter Osborne, called the road a 9-mile roller coaster due to the bumpy road surface. But more than 2 months later, the authority said it has no plans to fix the road at this time. The temporary speed limit will be in place until KCC is confident that there's no safety risk. And demolition plans for Park Mall Shopping Centre in Ashford have been approved. Hoardings have been put up around the area with a 5-year limit before a new 200-space interim car park will replace the centre. With annual losses of £700,000, Ashford Borough Council has long held ambitions to flatten the centre. It says a declining retail sector, the loss of anchor tenants such as Wilko, and escalating maintenance costs are all contributing to the black hole. Councillor Geoff Meaden was the only member to abstain from the vote and questioned whether businesses being replaced with another car park was the right decision. And next, Thanet councillor Helen Whitehead has hit out at Reform MP Richard Twice after he said it was insane for children to wear ear defenders. Tice said in a press conference earlier this week that children in classes wearing ear defenders, "I'm sorry, this is just insane." Those are his words. Whitehead, a former deputy head teacher who uses those ear defenders herself, spoke to us today about her perspective on the issue.
I think Richard Tice needs to think very carefully about what it is that he said. I would like to see a response from Reform in general as to whether they agree with what has been said. For many students who are neurodivergent, the only way they're going to be able to access mainstream classrooms is with disability supports that help to reduce the sensory input, because it is quite literally an overload.
Time for a short break now, but stay tuned for more in just a few minutes. See you then. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight live here on KMTV. Now, a couple who've been at the helm of a North Fleet pub for 16 years have shut the doors today, blaming soaring costs. The ye old leather bottle has been described as the heart of the community, offering a venue for local musicians and sports leagues. But the couple say ever-increasing rent and a reduction in regular customers have pushed them to the brink of bankruptcy. Our reporter Chloe Brewster headed down to the pub to find out more.
Pubs across the nation have been dealing with a pint full of issues in recent years, with the sudden loss of customers over the COVID pandemic, increasing rents, changes in customer lifestyle and the cost of living. Keeping the drinks pouring has become increasingly difficult.
I'm here at the Ye Old Leather Bottle in Northfleet in Gravesend. The owners here have been running the pub for 16 years, but are closing soon due to financial pressures.
Val and Janine Buzatu have been involved with the Leather Bottle in Northfleet since 2009. They worked in a variety of roles before it was sold to pub company the Stonegate Group, with the couple officially taking on the licence in 2020.
We love it. This has been a home for the last 16 years, and it's just a shame that we've had to say goodbye. Rent here is diabolical. For the footfall we get here, we don't even make the rent each week. It's ridiculous. And like we had a savings, we've used all our own savings to keep these doors open.
While the Leather Bottle is set to reopen with new owners, the national picture for pubs is pretty bleak. More than 14,000 pubs in the UK have shut in the past 10 years, and with the average price for beer nearly doubling in the same time frame, it is no wonder more and more of us are choosing to stay home.
It's very sad when you see like old people coming in and they just like order one sandwich and they split it between them just because they still want the social life, you know, they still want to come out. But you can see that the cost of living is just been, you know, in areas like this probably they've been affected even more because they're close to London, you know. Flats rents they're going up, or you know, houses rents they're going up and so on, and people they can't afford to literally go out and turn the gas on and electric all the time.
Stephen has been meeting friends at the Leather Bottle for years.
If you look at it, most people do come in the pub. I mean, I've always had a good living, so like, yeah, price-wise, it doesn't really affect it. But there are people who just can't afford to drink in here. You know, come out and pay a fiver for a pint. You know, they can't do it. They're not getting the money for it. I'm hoping it's not going to end here. Obviously, I've heard that it's going to open on Friday, the day after it's up. New people will take it over. But if they can do anything better than what these two did, all well and good.
A spokesperson for pub operator Stonegate Group told us that new management will be moving into the establishment on Friday, but said they'd like to thank Janine and Val for their hard work running the pub over the years. Janine and Val, while gutted, say they're looking forward to a new life in Norfolk, far from the pub that brought them so much joy. Chloe Brewster for KMTV in Northfleet.
And now it's time for the weather. Tonight then, it's looking pretty chilly with an average temperature of 3 degrees and partly cloudy skies across the county. There are yellow weather warnings for ice up until tomorrow afternoon, so don't forget to de-ice your car. And tomorrow morning then, 2 degrees over there in Royal Tunbridge Wells, and then in the afternoon goes up to 5 across the county with wind speeds of 5 miles per hour and 8 miles per hour. Saturday then, 8 degrees, rain. Sunday, 10 degrees, rain, and on Monday, 8 degrees and partly cloudy skies, so it'll get a bit better there by the start of next week. And now it's time to take a look from across the county at the sports news with Layla Sparrow.
First off in football, Gillingham manager Gareth Ainsworth looks to improve Sam Gale's game after the defender signs an improved contract at the League 2 club. The 21-year-old Gale was previously playing non-league football at Chelmsford City this time last year and has since transformed his career. Gale signed a longer-term contract at Gillingham last week as the club looked to reward the player for his rapid rise, but his manager says there's still some work to do. Ainsworth said, "If we can add some culture and some refinement to his game, I think he's going to go a long way." The deal ties him to the club until 2028 with the option of a further year. Moving over to cricket, as Ben Compton, a Kent batsman, reminisces on a special season this year. This summer saw him score over 1,300 runs. Compton credits his personal success to his winters in South Africa with the encouragement from Kent. The batsman will be supporting Kent teammate Zach Crawley, playing for England in the Ashes from afar. The 5-game test series begins in Perth this Friday. Looking across to rugby, the Cranbrook RFC youngsters enjoy a day out to remember the Defender Rising Stars Cup. Over 30 grassroots teams took part in a day full of fun, competition and sportsmanship to help their development. Prem rugby clubs hold the annual festival for under-11s and under-12s to boost their appreciation and learning in the game. Since the first Defender Rising Stars Festival back in 2008, more than 125,000 children have taken part, with some even going on to pursue successful careers at Prem level. And finally, some ice hockey news as the Invicta Dynamo's anniversary jersey sells out as the club plans for its 40-year celebration weekend. The Dynamos reveal a retro jersey design as a tribute to the club, celebrating the roots that go back to the Medway Bears.
Now, from refugee to journalist to founder of a charity. Earlier, we were joined in the studio by Raja Jibril, director of Folkestone-based charity Green Kordofan. Raja, who had to flee Sudan, spoke about why she founded her charity, the impact it has, and some of its success stories. She also touched on the current conflict in her home country. I spoke to her earlier today.
The war in Sudan is not new, unfortunately. Despite actually the situation was developed in a horrible way from April 2023, but we have people who've been displaced and from 2011 who reached to the border between Sudan and South Sudan, and we started supporting them from mid-2013. I mean, the time we started working with the people in the refugee camp in either South Sudan, the numbers of people who reached there were exceeded 100,000 people. And it was the number 5 biggest refugee camps in Africa at that time.
So of course it's a very important thing to raise money for and help. And we've got this lovely picture here. Can you tell me a bit about this picture?
Right. Green Kordofan started with a sport project as a way to kind of basically bring the community together. And one of the things that is we encourage this, because we work with people who have been kind of suffered from it, displaced, by embodying them to help their own community. And so what you see here on the pictures are children who learn to cycle, benefited from our bicycle project, and you can see the bicycles that they are using are sent from here from the UK and assembled in South Sudan by the help of our team in South Sudan. The kids are involved in a project to help elderly people in the community and work kind of disabled people by taking water to their homes on Tuesday. So that's their equivalent of Giving Tuesday, kids taking water to elderly homes.
Okay, and then you've also got you've got the water purification plant here and some different things you have achieved.
Yeah.
Can you run me through some of these things here we've got on the table?
Okay, so as I said, Green Kordofan started with the sport project, and we have more than one project at the moment. We have the educational project, and we have an in-house health unit led by a nurse, and who provide as well first aid training for the team and young people over there. We have over 38 football teams for boys and girls together, and we have a volleyball teams for girls as well, and a mixed team, boys and girls playing volleyballs. We have, as you can see here, this is a container with solar panels. This has been achieved by the support of various really community members who have donated legacy money from wonderful people who actually wanted to remember their family members, people who actually remember how their family survived the London bombing, struggle at that time during war, use that memory to help other people surviving another war in another country. People who survived Holocaust, remembering their family members by donating. So the container is actually a really kind of something to celebrate, but as commemorate as well. That yes, people go through a hard time, but to use that experience to help other people to go through what they're going through, it was wonderful. The solar's donation as well from people from charity like the Tinsley Trust has provided us with more than, I think, 2 payment of £2,000 towards the solar, improving the solar panels. And that is kind of now aboard our satellite internet, which is a legacy with another wonderful friend of us.
How can people help you achieve the other ones? We've got the QR codes here, but is there a website or anything people can go to donate?
Definitely, the website is www.greencordifund.com. Okay. The most important thing is really sanitation facility. We are desperate to improve our sanitation facilities with cholera outbreak in the whole country, South Sudan, as well as in Sudan. There is problems with tropical illness, and cholera is one of the threat for the human over there, you know, plus malaria. So helping us by putting proper facilities like toilets and water, clean water.
They also have an event this Saturday, which you can check out on their website. But now we have a quick break, but afterwards we'll be looking at Hadlow housing havoc, and I spoke to Lee Lusak from Kent Online about her experiences of moving from Poland. All of that and more to come after the break. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight Live on KMTV. I'm Kristen Hawthorne and here's a reminder of your top stories today on Thursday the 20th of November. Hundreds of homes. Hadlow locals worry for the future of their village after 500 homes are set to be built. And pub power couple say they're leaving the industry in the past after 16 years as prices increase. And Film Focus will be joined by Chris Deasy for a look at the week's biggest talking points and what's new at the cinema. But first, as I said, our top story this evening, the small countryside village of Hadlow near Tunbridge is set for more than 500 homes after plans for multiple housing developments have been submitted, worrying local residents. They say that the extra people would put pressure on already strained schools, medical services and roads, and that the village simply wouldn't be able to handle it. Finn McDermott went down to the village to find out more.
Kent is known as the Garden of England, and it isn't hard to see why. Rolling hills, winding roads, and acres of green space. But one village in the heart of the county say they're worried because of housing development in the area. Now, this is normal with rising housing targets across the country. It's not exactly rare to hear about this, but for the small village of Hadlow, they've had multiple developments be submitted. And with a new application for 116 homes being raised, locals say it would be too much for the village to handle.
I called a public meeting along with some other people in August this year because we heard about a planning application up Carpenter's Lane in Hadlow for 100 houses. And we knew other ones were coming. So we had a public meeting, and from there we formed a group called Home. Hadlow opposes mass expansion because we are in line for roughly 500 houses in this village. And we don't have the infrastructure.
Now, Hadlow isn't exactly a large village. It's got a population of about 4,000. And with that, residents say that services aren't especially good as well, with only the one primary school, one secondary school, and also the traffic is quite concerning. It's just about 3 p.m. now, and you can hear some of those commuters actually behind me. And you can see the traffic is quite severe, and locals worry that with these extra homes that they've totaled up over different planning applications to be about 500, that all this get a lot worse.
This is, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If you were to come here 3 or 4 hours later, you won't be able to move. It's gridlocked. And the limited amount of parking there is in the square. So instead of people walking from various parts of the village, which is sustainable, they have to use a car to come a long way, and then they find there's nowhere to park.
The application does take parking into account, with a community car park being part of the plans. But locals with HOME added they thought the site was too far away from the village to be effective. The largest 2 developments are the most recent on Court Lane in the south of the village with 116 homes, and another for 100 homes in the green belt by Carpenter's Lane. And the companies responsible responded to the residents' concerns, saying requests for financial contributions towards infrastructure will be made by consultees. These will include health, education, leisure and open space. And Red Row Homes, working on the Court Lane development, say they've been working closely with the local planning authority, highways authority and the housing officer to update our proposal following the consultation period, ensuring it aligns with the draft local plan and the needs of the local community. Kent has plenty of countryside, and Hadlow is no different, but locals will hope that if the 116 home development does pass, that it will fit the village rather than fill it beyond what it can handle. Finn McDermott for KMTV in Hadlow.
Now, more than 30,000 Brits have said goodbye to the UK to start new lives in Poland in the past 10 years. This follows the growing trend of people leaving the UK to start a new life abroad. Earlier we spoke to Kent Online reporter Dee Lukasik, who moved from Poland to Kent in the 90s. She's been tracking down Kent natives and understanding why they've decided to emigrate. She joined me on the sofa earlier today. All right, thanks so much for joining us, Dee. So your latest report looks at the journey of 8 people who moved from Poland to Kent, and you actually made this leap yourself. Can you tell us a bit about your journey?
Of course, I came here 27 years ago. I was at uni at the time. I wanted to learn English. I wanted to improve my English opportunities in Poland. So I only came here for 6 months. That was the plan. But on my very, very first day in England, I met my husband. And then I decided to stay here and to see England, to look around, to learn about people. And yeah, that's why I'm here.
So your first impressions of Kent must have been quite good then. Is that what made you stay?
You know what? My first couple of years I spent in London, so it was different. But then when we came to England, I was straight away I fell in love with it because it was so green, so beautiful, all those little villages and fairy tale like castles and churches, and that's why we decided we want to move here.
And you spoke to obviously other people who made that leap. Was there any common reasons that you found of why people made the move?
Lots of people coming here because they meet the partners here, or English or Polish, it depends where. And lots of people coming because of the economical reason, especially people from Poland. They used to come here, look for a job and improve their lives. Now it's a different story because Poland is a different country. So lots of my Polish friends actually moved back. But yeah, come on. I'm just wondering. Some people are just looking for adventure, like me, in a way. So yeah.
And on that adventure, did you find any challenges or anything, or any challenges that the people that you've spoke to kind of have in common, maybe?
Yes, lots. When we came here, it was different times. Poland wasn't in EU that time, so we needed visa. We needed money to be here, basically. I was quite lucky because my uncle from Switzerland, he helped me for the first few months here. And then, yes, to applying for at first I had a student visa, so I couldn't really work full-time. I could work part-time. So step by step, we were like gaining, we were looking for a job, we were gaining education, and yeah.
And of course, you've travelled around lots of different places in Kent. Can you tell me your favourite place, how many places you've travelled to, and why you do so much travelling around the area?
Well, I love taking photos, so that's one of the reasons. And I find English villages fascinating, and Kentish especially. I visited 250 or 260 villages in Kent, and I took photos of all of them. And my favourite, I don't know, I think Shoreham would be the top, but I like Chilham, I like Lenham. It's lots of places I love.
Fabulous. And then what does the future look like? Are you planning to stay here in Kent for the inevitable, or are you going to move back to Poland like maybe some of the people that you interviewed?
At the moment I'm planning to stay because I've got grown-up kids here who I don't think they want to move to Poland. They've got their own lives here, and I don't want to leave them. So yeah, I want to live close to them. And as I said, I love England. I've got lots of beautiful friends here, and it would be very hard to leave them.
Well, it's a very fascinating story, Dee. Thank you so much for talking to me this evening.
Thank you.
Now, one of Margate streets has been named as one of the coolest in the world by Time Out magazine. North Down Road in Margate was ranked as the 31st coolest street in the world in the list of the planet's most fashionable roads, which includes destinations such as Rio de Janeiro, Osaka, Berlin and New York City. It was one of the only 3 UK roads, the other being Blackstock Road in the Finsbury Park area and Highbury area of North London. Margate has been making a slow and steady comeback since the 1980s and now has an edgy feel, adding to its appeal according to the magazine. Very exciting. And now the latest business news with Kari Damani.
Bakery 79, named after the year it began over 4 decades ago, soars to new heights, reaching Park Garage petrol station today in Beerstead near Maidstone. According to the staff, it surpasses Greggs. To celebrate the new launch, they plan to serve free coffee till Sunday, along with a free sausage roll for anything over £3, with a free cake with every bake. In an attempt to reduce waste, all items will be baked on site every morning. The store staff have a wider national plan to update former Greggs units and forecourt counters. Director Manoj carries on the family legacy, saying, "My grandparents built this business on the belief that even a quick stop should feel personal." Good news from the Valiant Sailor pub in Capel-le-Fern as the pub escapes the threat of closure by changing hands. Continuing its 200-year-old run, its closure was announced weeks ago, with former bosses blaming financial pressures. The pub's new management were delighted to announce its grand reopening on Facebook, saying they're excited to begin a new chapter as a traditional welcoming family pub. To celebrate, the pub's dart team Valiant Vikings will host a charity dart marathon to raise money for Macmillan Cancer Support, a staple of the community sitting between Dover and Folkestone. The pub is known for its well-priced drinks and traditional pub grub. Smee Dean to bring up 20 new jobs in Sittingbourne after £30 million was spent on the new facility. Operator roles are ready to be offered by Wienerberger in construction of this new facility. When both production lines are in place, the factory capacity will expand to 94 million tiles every year, enough for 32,000 semi-detached homes, equal to the town size of Whitstable. Operating officer Keith Baker says launching Smee Dean is about more than expanding our national manufacturing footprint. It's about building for what's next. And finally, Kent's own Gusbourne Winery has been named best in the country, breaking into the top 30 of a global vineyard ranking based in Appledore near Ashford. The vineyard has jumped from 50th place in 2024 to 28th in the world's best vineyards list. Founded in 2004 by Andrew Weber, Gusbourne was one of the only 2 UK vineyards named on the global list. Nominees for the list are chosen by 500 travel and wine experts across all 5 continents, with Vic Vineyard in Millway Valley, Chile taking the #1 spot.
Well, now it's time for a quick break, but make sure to stay tuned so you don't miss out on any upcoming stories. See you then in a few minutes. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight Live here on KMTV. Now, Sir Mick Jagger paid a visit to his old school in Dartford to celebrate its 25th anniversary of it being renamed after him. The Rolling Stones superstar reopened the Performing Arts Centre in 2000 and it has been Dartford Grammar School for Boys in its previous form. The 82-year-old frontman met pupils and school's headmaster, Julian Metcalf, who said it was a very special day. Sir Mick funds a weekly music tuition project at the centre named Red Rooster, which gives music and dance tuition to 1,280 children each week. The centre is also used for community activities, theatre shows and concerts. And from a nightclub to a curry house, a new Indian restaurant is set to replace a top venue in Maidstone. In its heyday, the Bank's cocktail bar and nightclub drew big crowds and even bigger names, such as Mark Knight and Robbie Vincent, and was one of the town's most popular night spots. But after being closed for more than a year, Luther Ranman has transformed the building and it is set to reopen as an Indian restaurant called Masala Banks. It has 3 floors, 2 of which will be used for the restaurant, including a lounge, while the other will be used for his staff. And it's set to open in December. So lots of Indians in December then. And now don't forget you can keep up to date with all our latest stories across Kent by logging onto our website kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find all of our reports, including this one about a team of Medway boxers fighting to support a charity raising awareness around suicide prevention.
On the 11th hour of the 11th month, Medway joined the rest of the country in silence to pay respect to a historic occasion, that being Armistice Day, which marked the end of the First World War, a conflict that took countless lives. Ex-servicemen came together at Chatham's Naval Memorial to honour those who had fallen. There's even a service taking place at Chatham Town Football Club. So let's go and see what the community of Medway has done to remember Armistice Day. The service saw the appearance of Medway political figures and players of Chatham Town FC paying their respects.
It is actually personally quite powerful for me as well, because my grandfather served in the British Armed Forces. Now, I never met him, he died before I was born, but that is part of my family's proud history, that he served in the Armed Forces, and it's particularly poignant for me to be here today to witness this and pay my respects and witness this act of remembrance to all of those who served in the Armed Forces and who secured this society of liberty and freedom for us all to enjoy.
Of course, yeah, it's very, very important. It's important that they understand what people have been through, the whole reason behind Armistice Day, Remembrance Day. It's very important that we share it with them so that they can then pass it on to future generations. Because here at the club, for example, we do try and educate our young people in every single area, not just football, but in all walks of life in terms of key skills. We try and educate them as best we can.
It's been an emotional day, yes. This is actually my 3rd service of the day, so but it's well worth the effort. You can probably tell by my voice I'm not in the best of health at the moment, but I'm still determined to make the effort to get out and pay my respects, because it's very important.
Those present hope this timeless message is remembered in the hearts of those in Medway, and that the years never condemn it. We will remember them. Henry Luck for KMTV in Medway.
That story obviously not about suicide awareness, but a very important story all the same. Now, the Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning for across Kent as temperatures are set to plummet. In addition to the cold temperatures across the county, forecasters are warning us to brace for ice in the coming days. Canterbury, Ashford, Thanet, Dover and Folkestone all are to be affected by the warning. Wintry showers are set to lead to icy patches between tonight and tomorrow morning, increasing the risk of travel disruption and injuries due to slips on the pavements. Be very careful. A cold weather health remains in place until 8 AM this Saturday. And now let's take a look at the weather. Well, as I said, into tonight it's looking pretty chilly with an average temperature of 3 degrees and partly cloudy skies across the county. There are yellow weather warnings for ice, as I said. Into tomorrow morning then, it's continuing with the same. Sun peeking through the skies in Kent, and tomorrow evening looking a bit more promising with the temperature rising to an average of 5 degrees. Then into the end of the week, temperatures are rising to 8 degrees with rain. Sunday 10 degrees with rain, and Monday partly cloudy skies with 8 degrees, so a bit better on Monday. And now, of course, our weekly chat with Chris Deasy about all the latest film news. We'll be taking a look at Zootropolis 2 and its surprise appearance at Blue Water, now dubbed Zoo Water. We'll also be looking at the upcoming film releases, including Wicked for Good and the new Five Nights at Freddy's film. And obviously, Chris is here with me now. So, have you heard about this Zootropolis, Zoo Water that's happened at Blue Water?
What a brilliant connection. I will never think of Blue Water the same way again now.
Exactly.
Or this film, indeed.
Yes, so what have you heard about this film? I mean, has it been long in the running, of course?
It has. I've seen the posters for it, and of course that's always the excitement when, even months before, even when it's not even the season when the film is meant to come out, you're looking in anticipation. I mean, I know we'll come on to Wicked in just a minute, but often you can wait months. And, you know, it's almost as though those films sometimes that seem to cross seasons, you know, a Halloween film or a late summer movie or a Christmas movie, often intertwined. And it's almost as though when the films finally come out, it feels like the fruition of many months of excitement. And I mean, with Oppenheimer a couple of years ago, I think I saw the trailer something like 10 months before the film came out in 2023.
Yeah, and the first one was very popular. I mean, it created a lot of buzz on social media. Do you think maybe the second one is just going to be just as good?
Well, I think when you have a ready-made audience, then in a way, it's also why we have so many sequels and so many remakes to films, because there's going to be an audience, particularly if it's a family film. Toy Story, which we've talked about on this show many times before, it's always going to have that crossover appeal. And I think that's why some filmmakers are really wary of remakes, because commercially they might be successful, but artistically it's much more the same. That's not to say it's not going to be a good movie, but in a way it has to also maintain the original audience. It won't disappoint them, so that people won't then regret having gone to see this sequel.
And people might think because it's a cartoon it might be for kids, but the original contained a lot of dark hidden themes, prejudice, stereotypes and racism. Do you think that will come into the second film, and do you think then that it is a film for kids?
I think it's exactly the same with Inside Out, which the second film was really good, and a lot of people who are neurodivergent have talked about how, and adults, not just children, have talked about how that film has meant so much to them. So I think that you're right. There was once a time when it was thought, oh, an animated film is for children. But then again, you think of Disney films and how many parents, as well as the children, are very keen. I mean, I'll be going to see Wicked tomorrow at the cinema. I know that's not an animation, but you know, you'll see as many parents in the audience as you will children.
And speaking of Wicked, we've got the Wicked for Good being released. I think this is the part 2 of the whole franchise, really, of the 2 films. What do you think of the first film? And again, do you think this one is going to be as impactful as the first?
Well, if one of my daughters is anything to go by, we booked our ticket, I think 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. So we've got a performance tomorrow evening, all booked, straight after ballet. Now, we saw Wicked last year, and I've seen on the big screen The Wizard of Oz even since then. And of course, this is, if you like, a cousin of the Wizard of Oz movie. But so exciting. I mean, even the songs, I mean, talk about earworms. I mean, singing all those, you know, wonderful songs from the Wicked musical. I don't know what this film will have in store, but the buzz has been phenomenal. And of course, also, it won and received many Oscar nominations last year. So this is a film that the critics are taking really seriously as well.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had all the different red carpets, we've had celebrity interviews with them. What do you think about all the buzz about this? Do you think that, you know, it's going to be as good as the buzz makes it seem like it's going to be?
I think it will be, because they obviously made the 2 films at the same time, but you can't have part 2 without part 1, and that's the difference, I think, with what we were saying about the Zoo Water film that we were just talking about, because there they obviously said, right, okay, well, that's a standalone film, but a sequel is inevitable. Here, I remember watching Wicked last year, and it's 2 hours 40 minutes. This one's about 20 minutes shorter. And then there were some people in the audience around me, and they said, "Oh, I didn't realise it was in 2 parts," because it said, part 2 will come out in a year's time. And I think there was almost a sense of both excitement but also disappointment among some people in the audience. And I saw the film more than once because you have to wait a whole year to see how the story develops. So I think that's part of its commercial appeal. You get 2 movies out of it, but they are 12 months, or to the week actually, apart.
Yeah, and so people obviously will be very excited to sit down and watch this. And compared to the original stage production in the book series, do you think maybe people will be disappointed if it diverts at all from that? And what would you say to those people? Maybe it's a necessary change?
Personally, I think it is a necessary change, because that was always my concern with things like the Da Vinci Code. Wonderful novel to read, very exciting, a page-turner. You translate that into a film sometimes, and it feels you either go down the by-the-numbers formulaic path, which feels almost redundant, or you can do something that feels more cinematic. And I think in this case, I've interviewed people on my radio show as well who've said exactly the same thing, that the Wicked film, they know the musical, but the film really surprised and excited them because it went one stage further. It didn't just feel like a difference actually would be the Colour Purple movie that came out a year ago that really disappointed people because they said it was